because your vision is actually not your mission. Your vision needs to become your client's mission. It needs to activate their mission. So vision and mission go hand in hand, but you've got the vision, and the vision is the outcome of what you're creating, so that when the client goes through the journey with you, their mission is then activated because of your solution. Their mission is actually activated.
Mary, thank you so much with your beautiful energy like the moment I started talking to you, I was like, oh my god, this interview is going to be one of the best conversations ever. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your beautiful energy, and thank you so much for shining.
Thank you, Annie, for having me. I'm so excited. Like, I just want to talk and never get off the microphone. So wherever you take the journey, I'm going to follow you.
Let's go with the flow. Let's guide other people. Let's talk about personal branding. Let's talk about skills, how we can transform our skills and help and guide other people, and how we can also make sure that we are choosing the right clients for us, and we are the right fit for the clients, and then let the conversation unfold itself. But at first, we all hear those words like manifestation, personal branding, like all of the spirituality, like certain things you hear all over again. But if you just stop and you ask yourself, what does it actually mean? You might be like, oh my god, I have no idea. So what is personal brand, or what does personal branding even mean?
To me, Annie, it's really simple. It's you, the human, you are the business. Like, that's in the short answer. That's essentially what it actually means. The long version is, how do you convert your learned knowledge and skills and incorporate your wisdom, the subjective wisdom, the wisdom that you've experienced on your hero's journey? How do you merge all of that together and create a solution that can solve a problem for a human or for a business? How can you show up in the world so that you can be known as the go-to person in one area of specialization, where your solution can either decrease pain or enhance somebody's life or business? And that's how you become the go-to person in terms of a go-to brand. You know, you've heard that language before. So personal branding has evolved a lot. And I think that what it is not is an influencer on Instagram, you know, with 300,000, followers, because that's a delusion. That is actually not reality. I can tell you now, I have spoken to so many people who are those people. They have thousands and thousands of followers on Instagram, especially LinkedIn, and not one of them are monetizing their specialization. And the reason they're not monetizing is that most of those people actually don't have a specialization. That is the absolute truth. In the area that I work in, Annie, and what makes it so sublime and so absolutely delicious is that when you can consider yourself as an industry expert, or you have a specialization in one area that you know for sure, what that means is that you have the capacity to bring to the table the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, based on what you can do with ease, with grace, solving solutions with ease, with grace, and most importantly, the ability to deliver a transformation, outcomes, results to a client or a business. Because right now, we're in what I call the wisdom economy. We are not in the information economy. We're in the information age, but we are not in the information economy. We're in the wisdom economy, where wisdom is the highest currency right now. So anybody here that is sitting on accumulated knowledge, skills, learned knowledge, learned skills, wisdom, both objective and subjective, you're going to be in hot demand. And the question is, what are you doing with it? Because that is a gold mine that a lot of people are sitting on. So when you look at it from that standpoint, and you look at it from the standpoint of inventory, then you can create your entire branding architecture around your area of specialization. And that is the starting point of branding in terms of allowing you to be believable and trustable, the ability to for people to know you as the go-to person. So, in a nutshell, that's the long version of personal branding. The underlying factor is your expertise and your wisdom.
Your opinion about how personal brand and having a niche is connected. Is it important? Is it not? And like, if yes or no, like, tell me why and what is the niche and how do we find the niche?
Well, this is the thing. This is a very interesting question because I don't like that language actually. You know, you've got to find your niche because it limits you. Think about it. If you say somebody says to you, "Oh, Annie, go and find your niche," and you're like, "Oh, maybe I should be serving mumpreneurs." That's a little box of of humans that we've given a label, and now you're talking to this group of people who have a label called, let's say, mumpreneurs. Personally, I absolutely find that derogatory. But anyway, let's just call it
Mm-hmm.
for, for the sake of this conversation. Um, what I prefer, Annie, is that isn't it better to unpack your learned knowledge, your learned skills, your wisdom, your gifts, your talents, your passion? Isn't it better to merge that together? Look at that as inventory from the standpoint of what problem can I solve with all of this inventory? Who could possibly need this problem solved? I've got the solution. I know how to solve the problem. Who in the world needs this problem solved? Now, it may not be a niche. Maybe your solution can help a lot of people across the board. Males, females, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds in the technology business, in the fashion business. So are you going to niche yourself? Absolutely not, because you don't have to, because your solution can help a lot of people. So, realistically, what we should be niching down is our brand proposition. This is what I do. This is who I serve. This is what I promise. This is who I serve. This is what I promise. And that's really, in my opinion, where we should get clarity, because when you get clarity, then you're going to attract the right people. Doesn't matter what industry they're from, doesn't matter how old they are. At the end of the day, if somebody needs a solution to a problem and you can present that you are the right person to solve that problem based on your area of expertise, why are we niching down to a specific group of people when you can have a broad range of people and businesses? But what you do is very clear. So we should be calling that the niche.
But if someone is listening to us and they're like, oh, it makes sense what you are saying. I understand what personal brand is, but I have these skills, but how? Give us baby steps. What should we do? Okay, I understand I have this skill set and I'm really good at this. Where should I start with like the vision? How can I build my personal brand?
Well, that is actually a very, very good point that you've made, because your vision is actually not your mission. Your vision needs to become your client's mission. It needs to activate their mission. So vision and mission go hand in hand, but you've got the vision, and the vision is the outcome of what you're creating, so that when the client goes through the journey with you, their mission is then activated because of your solution. Their mission is actually activated. So when I'm working with clients, Annie, one thing that most people find very difficult is the ability to organize their information, in a logical way that takes a client on a journey from start to promise. And it actually is a difficult process. I owned a software company for 7 years, and we had cognitive scientists that worked in my company. One of the things that we did extremely well, and this was our point of difference, is that we always looked at building software or designing software from the standpoint of how the end user wanted to experience the software, not how our clients wanted us to, not how they thought we should be designing the software based on what they thought the end user wanted. So we used to do a lot of group workshops with the end user, trying to understand how they want to process the information cognitively. And that's it's a very specialized area. So what I learned from that in what I've brought in my own coaching business now is, how do we design a framework so that when we're designing a program, we're actually designing it for our client. We're not designing it for us. So we have to think, how does the client want to experience solving their problem? Like, how am I going to take them on the journey? Do I start them on, and it has to be logical. Okay, think about this. When you're actually creating a solution, it's not necessarily emotional, it's logical, because the client needs to experience some quick wins immediately in order to keep them motivated to keep going. Otherwise, if it's just too educational and it's too informational, they're going to lose interest. They're not going to see any micro results or micro transformations. And then they won't believe you, and you won't be trustable and believable. The key is we have to look at it logically. So if a client has a problem, let's just say they come to you because they want uh, body work, body achievement, mindset, whatever it is that you're selling. The question is, okay, well, where do we want to start them? What is the first thing that they need to unpack in order to get clarity? Are you doing an inventory on where they're at? Is it a gap analysis? We've really got to look at it logically, from unpacking them almost inside out, if you will. But the key to a successful program is understanding what are the outcomes that the client gets every step of the way. This is very important, because what I see, Annie, is a lot of people are building coaching courses based on all this information, and let's hope for the best. There's a lot of PDFs, attached in these modules, a lot of video lessons. All of that's awesome, as long as it actually delivers an outcome, a result, and a transformation. If it doesn't do that, what is the client, what's the purpose of the client going through this online, let's just say it's an online program? What is the purpose of the client going through that online program? So organizing information in a logical way that makes sense to the end user is, in my opinion, the most important aspect of your business. And the other thing I might just add here is, when you're creating any form of coaching program, we have to also allow for growth, Annie, because it's not just about building a coaching program and leaving it there, and then 10 years later, you're still selling the same solution when the world has moved on, right? We have to allow for our growth and also the growth of the actual coaching program, because the coaching program is a living, breathing entity. Like, it's actually alive. And one thing that I like to talk to my clients through is, yes, you've got your learned knowledge. Yes, you've got your learned skills. Yes, you have your wisdom, but you also have the subjective wisdom as well. And this is why I incorporate the hero's journey so much in my work, because the subjective wisdom is almost like you have gone on this inner journey on behalf of the clients that you're going to serve. You see how powerful this is? Because now you can go into that conversation. You know exactly where they're at on their journey. And you're speaking from a place of conviction, not from a textbook that you've read. It's conviction. It's deep soul work. And you're coming from a completely different space, because you speak to that individual from here, not from here. It's two different conversations. So when we're looking at our coaching program, yes, you organize the data. Yes, you're building it based on how the end user wants to experience it, but it's a living, breathing organism as well. So we have to always, always, always keep it alive.
That is so powerful, the point you just made here. And I love how you said, like, this is a living organism. This is not something you just wrote and goodbye, like you put it away and this is going to be working. This PDF is going to be working for you for next 10 years. No, that's not how it works. I'm curious, when you go with a client, when the first time you're talking to them, what do you watch for? What do you pay attention to? Do you ask questions and guide them? Do you tell them what to do? What's your coaching process? Because for me personally, I learned that for everyone is different. When I ask questions, I feel like people always already have answers. You just need to help them organize, as you said, all that information in their head. They know what to should be doing. So I
Yeah.
found that if I ask the right questions, I get the right answers. What's your process, and how does, like, for example, the first conversation with them go? What are your questions to them?
The first part of the conversation is is in my onboarding calls, which take 3 hours, because I do exactly what you're saying. It's asking the right questions to extract the right answers based on their truth. I need to know your experience based on truth, not the books you've read. I don't want to know that. I want to know your actual learned knowledge and skill set that has been, or that has to be experienced. And the reason for that is because you then can speak to that with conviction. Make it very, very easy to write copy, to write your post, to create your your program with conviction. You can speak to it with conviction. Otherwise, it's like, oh my God, I got to go. I better read up on that and put it in my coaching program. I better go and read 3 books. Brush up on my skill set. So if somebody asks me, I know how to answer it. Why are we doing that? Why do we? That is just crazy. Like, if it's not a part of your learned experience, it has to be out of the program. It can't be in the program. When it becomes experienced and it becomes wisdom, yes, then it can come back into the program, which is why it's a living, breathing organism. But the first step for me is always asking the right questions. It's extracting the information. I'm plotting it all out on an Excel spreadsheet to begin with. And then I start to organize the information so that it makes sense. Like, it's got to have a starting point. It has to have an end point. It has to deliver on the promise. It has to deliver transformations. This takes a lot of work, because it's a discipline. This is my genius zone. But also, Annie, and this is really critical, we've actually also built a software, and the software is specifically to extract the attributes from my clients, such as their core values, their core gifts, their core talents, their core abilities, their passions. I'm extracting all of this in this software, which then spits out data in reports. So before we even get on this 3-hour call and I'm asking them their questions and extracting their genius zone, essentially, I'm also looking at who they are in their natural state of being. This is very, very powerful, because a lot of people never spend time on understanding, who am I in my natural state of being? So for me, it's getting them closer and closer to their true self.
What
It's
do you
the
mean by natural
closer
state of being? Sorry to interrupt you. What do you mean by what is?
their natural abilities, their natural gifts, their core
Mhm,
values, who they are as a persona, their
mhm,
story. Like, I've got to capture all of that, which I call the brand truth, right? Because you see, this is where even my clients, when they do this exercise, they're like, holy shit, like, I can't believe that this is me. You see, this is why I get as close to the true self as I can. For me, it's not even the true self, it's the soul. It's activating the soul. And it's like the soul comes alive and says, thank God you finally unpacked me and you've recognized that I exist. So we have to activate the soul, because that's where creativity lives. That's the creative genius, has to be activated. The only way you can activate it is going through this process of elimination. And then once I have all of this inventory, then, for example, let me just give you a perfect example. One of my core gift is my voice. My talent, my natural talent, actually is singing. I've been trained, my voice has been trained from the age of 5. Now, I don't want to be a singer. I have no desire to be a singer. But my voice, which is my gift, I use it every day strategically and deliberately. Hence why you and I are having this conversation. This is my power zone. This is my energetically, I thrive when I'm using my voice.
mhm.
And so we have to look at our natural gifts, and are they showing up every single day in our life?
We were just chatting before the show. It's also important not sometimes when people start this journey, they just take on any client. How do you see
Yeah.
it? Is like in the beginning, should we just take anyone so we just train ourselves, or should we just set from the beginning to just choose the right client for us? And how do we define also if we are the right fit for the client? How to say no as well, because that's hard.
Yes. I think that's very important. Those two questions you've asked are very important. But also, I want to say that at the beginning, you do have an idea of the client you want to work with because essentially it's you. Like, it's the only way I can describe it. You're going to be attracting other people like you. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line, right? But as you evolve, Annie, as a human, and as you're growing and evolving, the client, the choice of client that you have must also change. It's very important because for I can serve the clients I used to serve 5 years ago, but I've outgrown those clients. I can't give them what I want because I was here and now I'm here, and it's like the evolution of my wisdom and who I've become is not that person. And I want to empower my clients. I want to take them on this amazing journey that is just unforgettable because you know when you're clear on who you are, when you're clear on where you're at, when you're clear on um your capacity in terms of what it is that you can do for sure and the problem that you can solve for sure with ease and grace, then we should also have the courage to say, you know what, I don't want to work with that client anymore. I really want to work with clients that are at this stage of their journey, and I want to help them complete that journey. And this is just being truthful and honest. And when you are truthful and honest, those clients will come. Because here's the thing, Annie, the wisdom that we learn when we are embarking on the hero's journey, okay? The hero's journey, it can be a very long cycle. And also it can be a very short cycle, and it can be cycles within cycles. And what I've learned is the wisdom that I've gained from my own hero's journey, and I've been on many of those cycles, is the wisdom I feel is is the wisdom that I've learned on behalf of the clients I want to serve, right? It's like I've learned it for all of us. And now I want to share with you my wisdom and my experience to make it a lot easier for you, for me to have the capacity to hold a space and hold that energetic field for all of us takes a lot of power and a lot of courage. So we have to also be ready, Annie, to be able to hold that energetic space because it can be very, very powerful. And also remember, we have to also learn how to protect ourselves, how to not take on all those projections because you'll go crazy. So this is a work in progress as far as I'm concerned. Where I was 5 years ago is absolutely not where I am today. But now today I can hold a much bigger space. I feel very comfortable. You can project as much as you want to me. I don't take it on. I know exactly, how to play the field. But also, Annie, the wisdom that I've learned along the way is massive. It's even blows me away. So we have to bring that to the table as well. And the client has to be ready for that, Annie. I can't bring the wisdom I have now to the clients I was serving 5 years ago. They would freak out.
It's almost like a muscle. As you stretch yourself out to have ability to take on more of the information, or sometimes when I have been with people who just complain and share just for the sake of complaining, it drains me. But no matter how negative is what someone says, if they want to just share it and they are trying to find a solution, then it's empowering. So it's important to. I also loved how you said, like, you cannot help the people who don't want to be helped. There's
No,
a quote from the book As a Man Thinketh, which I might not remember exactly, but the whole point is like the strong man cannot help weaker unless the weaker is willing to be helped. And
that,
even then, the weak man has to become strong of himself. None but him can alter his condition. It goes something like that. So if the
yes.
client is not ready, you cannot help them. So that's a very important point that you made here. What's your process of, do you have any, do you do any reflection of, like, after the conversations, because you must have gained so much knowledge, and how do you use that knowledge in your own life?
Annie, I think that as you evolve, what happens is that you become very disciplined. And, I've become very disciplined in my life and also very patient. And these are traits that I've learned. This is not something that I was born with. was raised with a serial narcissistic mother, like seriously narcissistic, like crazy. And, I was holding a lot, been through a lot of trauma as a child, but also, now knowing what I know now, I don't look at it as a trauma. I look at it as a great gift, because if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't have had the will and the desire to pursue this path of the road less traveled, to be on the hero's journey over and over and over again. Because for me, it's a process of elimination. You take the masks off, the next mask, and the one after, and the one
Mm.
after. So for me, my life today is very much based on discipline. It's very much based on patience. And also, and this is very important to understand this, is to honor and protect our mind and our soul at all costs. I cannot stress that enough. And I say this with so much conviction and passion, and it's taken me a long time to understand that statement. It seems simple, but it's so deep and so wide. Because if we don't understand our mind and how it is plugged into the thickness of this dense matrix that we're living in, if we don't actually understand how it's also controlling us, and how our emotions and our feelings play a significant role in also feeding the mind, then we're never going to escape the matrix, from the standpoint of not living in la la land and, singing kumbaya, in some forest on my own. I'm not talking about that, although, if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm talking about from the standpoint of really, really learning, creating a disciplined life, to understand how to uh, uh, not even control the mind, but it's also making sure that you're aware of when the mind and the ego is starting to play tricks. It's activated. It wants to see you self-destruct, so it's going to start playing out, and it's charged. And what charges it? Our emotions and our feelings. So if we don't have self-awareness to begin with, we're going to be living a life that's going to lead to one destination, and that is self-destruction. That's the goal of the ego. So I think what happens when you gain wisdom along your journey is that you start to your mind and your soul plays a significant role in who you become. And this is why I keep saying, and I will continue to say, I say this to my children all the time: you must protect your mind and your soul at
Mm.
all costs, like at all costs. And yeah, I think that for me is where I'm at right now.
Hmm. That is very important, because if this is not working, nothing around us can work, and we cannot help anyone. I would always say, with my ex-husband and with my child, I was like, I come first. If I don't give myself my workout, my meditation, then was my relationship, and then was my child, because the child wouldn't have been there if the relationship was not there. So like that was and people would not understand that. I was like, no, I come first. My needs, not everything that I want, what I need comes
And
first, then what my relationship needs come first, and then my
yeah,
son's needs would come first. So that's really important to make sure this is all protected. The
yes,
$1 million question, when people are like, okay, I have the skills, I have lived experience, then it's like, how do I get the clients? Sometimes
yes.
people focus on, okay, let's do the website, and they spend their all time building I'm not saying that's not important. I feel like people spend more time on the things that is not that important as they can spend on other times. So what would be your advice? What should we spend more time on when we are trying to find the clients, and how do we find the clients?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, I think the website actually is important, Annie. And the reason I say that is because, you know, your client will go and check you out. Okay. Whether it's social media is one thing, but having a website, and by the way, when I say having a website, you don't have to have a website that's going to cost you $20,000. Just have a
Yes.
website, right? Just make it as beautiful as you possibly can, but have a presence. show people that you're serious, that you have got a brand. There's consistency, there's congruency. People can read about you. They can read about your bio, your story, you've got sales page. Maybe you've got some freebies that you want to give away. The website actually is important. And a lot of people say it's not important and you can just sell on the back
Mhm.
of Facebook. And you know what, Annie, you can do all of that. It's just that it's not sustainable long term. At some point you can't keep selling in Messenger, because let's just say Facebook closes down tomorrow. What are you going to do then? What will you do then? Isn't it smarter to actually get people off social media and create another ecosystem so that if something happens, you've still got the client list. You can still communicate at least via email. So I'm not saying spend $20,000 on a website, but just get something up that if somebody wants more information, you can confidently send them somewhere, because it's all about your confidence at the end of the day. So I do believe in that. Now, in terms of getting a client, when I'm working with my clients and we're working on their solution, we always do a beta test first before it becomes the final solution. And the beta test means that you're going to find a group of people to your current list or followers on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. And you're going to invite a very small group of people to pay something for you to take them through that beta testing, the version, your beta version of your solution. Now, let's just say that you say your coaching program is going to be 3 months. In the beta testing, it doesn't have to be 3 months. It could be 4 weeks, but you need to be able to validate the solution. You need to qualify that your solution can deliver a transformation, it can deliver outcomes, and it can deliver results. If it doesn't do any of that, you go back to square one and you look at the inventory. What have I missed out? What maybe I forgot to add something in there. Oh my God, I'm a genius at sales. Why didn't I put sales in there? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's all about really, really thinking about where are the gaps, what went wrong. And in terms of generating leads, I am passionate about organic lead generation. When I do Facebook ads, all I'm doing is actually just boosting a post. Like, that's as far as I go. I used to do a lot of Facebook advertising, but what I found is this, that you spend all this money, you generate all of these cold leads, you put them into a funnel, they get something for free. Let's say you got 1,000 leads from a Facebook campaign. Out of those 1,000 leads, you might get 20 calls booked for strategy calls. And out of those 20 calls, you're probably going to close 1 to 2 sales. That's a lot of work for 2 sales, right? I can do the same thing just on my Facebook personal page, my Facebook group, my Facebook business page, my LinkedIn personal page, Instagram, YouTube, even podcast interviews. So the key is, number one, to understand who you are as a brand. You have to be clear on what you do, who you serve, what you promise. That is fundamental. It's the foundation of your business. Number two, you have to be clear on your solution. What problem can you solve? Who needs that problem? And put yourself in the mindset of the person who you believe needs help. Because when you start creating content on social media, the language that we use all comes down to starting a conversation with our target audience based on where they're at on their journey. So that's what we're trying to do. We're starting to, like you and I, we got on this podcast. What's the difference between you and I having this conversation, Annie, versus me having a conversation or you having a conversation in a text post on Facebook? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, or LinkedIn. So we have to start a conversation based on where on a pain point or where they're at or what's keeping them up at night. So the posts are not about pushing, but it's about pulling people into your ecosystem. And I do a lot of these in video, text posts, sometimes audio, depending on how I'm feeling. But it's, mix it up, do a combination of, go across all of your social media platforms, start a conversation about your lane, like stick to your lane, make sure people know what you do, like be clear in your post, always bring the story back and into context with what you do, so that people can read your post and go, oh my God, I need her. Like, I need her help. Like, that's exactly what I'm looking for, and they send you messages, so the momentum that we build on social media is absolutely critical. And that means we need to be consistent. We need to be congruent. We need to stay in our lane. We need to also, tell people what we do. Don't be afraid to sell. Otherwise, how will people know? So organic marketing is not difficult, but we do need to understand the people that we want to start a conversation with and really understand what's going on in their head.
Like, you truly care to make connection with your clients, and you
Yes.
truly care for your clients to be the right fit for you and for you to be the right fit for your clients. How important, like, there's a mindset and action. How important is our mindset? Because no matter how much action you take, and no matter how much even clients you attract, like, if your mindset is not at the right, if your headspace, like, if you
Yes.
are like anxious, always afraid that you will lose clients, how important is mindset and how important is taking action? If you have to put like percentage, how much would you like put on each of them to work
You
on your
know,
mindset?
yes. So I don't look at it as mindset, Annie. I look at it as, um, where am I at in my emotional health? That for me is way more important.
Mhm.
Because you see, Annie, if I just said to you, oh, I'm going to work on my mindset, it's not deep enough. It's too surface. It's like, okay, let me just give you an example. If I said to you, Annie, just say these affirmations 42,000 times for the next month and everything's going to be okay. Believe you me, you're going to go back to square one, because emotions and feelings reside in our body at a cellular level. Okay. Number one. Number two, the soul drives the body. So the soul's also is tethered. The soul's not able to create law of attraction for us, because it also is governed by our emotional state. It's blocked. We haven't activated it. So when we look at our emotions and feelings, the best thing to do is to embrace and celebrate when you are triggered. When somebody makes you angry, that's an opportunity. I call that an invitation. If somebody makes you mad or you're frustrated, sad, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever emotion is triggered, that's the invitation for us to stop and actually embody it fully. It's painful. I cannot tell you how painful shadow work is. It is unbelievably painful. However, it's the only way that we can transcend. Now, why is that important, Annie? It's important because when we can transcend those low vibrational energies that are attached to those lower, emotions and feelings, like fear and grief and sadness and anger, guilt, all of those are toxic, and they actually pull us back because they actually require a lot of energy. And so when we can transcend that, we also then start to calibrate at a higher consciousness. So the higher we calibrate, the more the law of attraction is going to work for us, not against us, because we're oscillating really high and we're light. Um, and this can only happen, Annie, at a body level. This is why body work's so important, not necessarily somatic body work, although that is critical, but this is really about sitting with yourself in silence. This is sitting with yourself in the middle of the forest with no distractions, but it's you, your body, your feelings, your emotions, and your soul. And you're actually opening yourself up and giving yourself full permission to step into the unknown, and the courage and the will and the desire to transcend that emotion no matter what. And it could take 100 times, but you've got the will and the desire to do that. And to me, Annie, this is the work that I do. And I am so passionate about it, because that for me is mindset. That's mindset. That's my version of mindset.
I love your version of mindset. Tell me about when, how did you decide to, how did you basically found yourself in like coaching other people, guiding other people? Tell me about your story.
Yes, well, I had a software company for 7 years, and I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2005. I left my corporate life. I had a very successful career in the tech industry, and I started my career in 2000, my entrepreneurial career in 2005. I had a software company, as I said, and then in 2011, I had my second child. And I remember 3 hours, and this just, even me telling you the story, I still feel the emotion. 3 hours after I gave birth to that child, I reached out to get my lip balm, and my business card fell out on the bed. And as I held that business card to put it back into my purse, I just held it for a moment and I thought it had my name and my title. And I thought, this business card is defining who I am in this world. Like, this piece of paper is defining me. Like, really? I gave this business card so much power, right? And not only did I give it power, but something also happened to me in that moment. And I realized that, oh my God, like, I have this software company, not because it's my passion, not because this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is not my purpose. But actually, what was I looking for? Validation again from my narcissistic mother, who was going to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, Mary, even though you didn't finish your degree at university," because I brought so much shame to her because she couldn't, show off to her friends. So I was carrying this trauma all of those years until that moment. I left that hospital and I knew I was going to resign from my company and I was going to find myself. And this is where the hero journey really starts. And so 2 weeks later, I actually resigned from my own company. This is a 7-figure business with infrastructure and clients, I have built from ground up. We eventually merged my business with another company. January 1st, 2012, I took a 12-month sabbatical, and I had two very important mentors. One was a professor in philosophy from Oxford University, and the other one was an academic and a specialist in the emotional body. And both of these mentors were my guides in that whole year. They literally held my hand, and I just started to unpack myself. I questioned everything. I mean, to tell you that I actually went through every authentic step on that hero's journey verbatim. Like, it was just so amazing. And then throughout that process, I suddenly realized, my mentor, the professor in philosophy, said, "I want you to write about every year of your life from 0 to 21 in first person in a journal. I just want you to write, and don't write it from here. You have to let the soul write it." And I'm like, "Was this guy like crazy?" And so I'm like, "This is, what's he talking about?" And so I got my journal and I was really trying to write from here. Nothing would come out. It wasn't until 2 weeks later, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had this urge to get up and write. And I knew exactly what he was saying, Annie. I got that pencil and I just wrote. It kept on coming out, and I didn't even know what I was writing. But what happened throughout that process is that, me being from a tech background, I took all of that information. I'm like, let me see if there's patterns. Let me see if I can see patterns. And I could see patterns on an Excel spreadsheet. When I was happy, this was happening in my life. When I was sad, this was happening in my life. When I was angry, blah, blah, blah. And so I could see all these patterns, which is essentially the framework of how I developed my software many years later. Like, can you believe it? And so, but also personal branding for me started, back in year 2000 in my corporate career. Like, I have a very, very deep relationship with personal branding. But in that year, I really, really found my natural state of being. I knew what I was really good at. I knew that I was very good at creating frameworks and software membership systems we built, which were the same as online programs. I was very good at sales. I was very good at lead generation. I was very good at personal branding. So when I put it all together as a methodology, I'm like, oh man, I've got a serious solution here. You know, I can help a lot of people with this. And this is what my mentors were trying to get out of me. Like, this is your sole purpose. Like, you just found your purpose within your own inventory. It was always in you, you know? And so it took me a few years to actually create all my frameworks and, just really put a proper system together before I launched, which was 2015. And that's how I really began my coaching journey. And it has evolved so much, so much. In fact, literally, I'm at the end of my another hero's journey cycle, and and I've gathered so much wisdom. It's just phenomenal. And now I'm. This is why I'm saying to you, you have to always evolve who you are. You then start attracting a different type of client, because that wisdom is then you give that wisdom back to your clients to empower them, and you and also have the capacity to hold a space as well. So my hero's journey is is awesome from the standpoint that I recognized very early, Annie, that the courage, the will, and the desire is the key. That's the key. And if I can hold that and honor that and not be frightened of that, then I'm going to be able to get as close to my soul and my true self as I possibly can, because that is my ultimate driver.
I'm loving this conversation, and you gave people so many important tips and advice, even though this topic is huge. And
Yeah.
we can talk about, like, maybe for, I don't know, for weeks about this topic. Is there anything that you want to add to this conversation that I maybe have not asked, that you want to make this conversation more complete?
One of my passions, Annie, is to educate people on the importance of understanding that wisdom is a real currency. And I don't think that we put enough emphasis on, our experience in this world, whether it's corporate or whether it's your whatever experience you've had. We need to look at that as inventory. And because wisdom is, I'm telling you, it's the name of the game. Moving forward, this is the holders of wisdom will be in hot demand. And you can even look at it as a currency, as a real currency, and put a value on it just by asking yourself, oh wow, what is my, let's just say you've had 20 years in the finance industry. If you look at 20 years in the finance industry, let's just say it's 20,000 hours of learned knowledge and skill set. If you put a value of $100 an hour multiplied by 20,000, that's $2 million of value. That's the currency and the value that a lot of people are sitting on, like seven-figure, gold mines that they're sitting on, and they don't even know it. They're not doing anything with it. So honor your wisdom. I can't stress this enough. It's so powerful, and you can do something with it.
I love that, and I don't think I've heard anyone talk about the wisdom that way,
No.
the way that you do. I have not. I'm pretty sure I have not heard, because we all talk about the knowledge, the things that we know, the skills. But no, I love how you just said, and inspired me too. My experience is my power. That's
Yes,
that's where my power lies, and
that's
how I
right.
have dealt with those challenges and how I have overcome the challenges. That's my wisdom, and
That's
no one
right.
can take that away from you. And it just grows and grows the more you live your life. Where can people find this beautiful woman, and how they connect to you, and what are some ways that you bring value today?
Yes, well, please, anyone, connect with me on my personal Facebook page, which is Mary Henderson Coaching, on LinkedIn, Mary Henderson Coaching, Instagram, Mary Henderson Coaching. Email me, Mary at maryhendersoncoaching.com, my website, maryhendersoncoaching.com.
Mary, if you could leave us with a message, and it can be simply a word, sentence, your favorite quote, your favorite movie, your favorite mentor, whatever. It can be anything, but not something that you think is right to say, something you feel is right to say. What would it be?
Protect your soul and your mind at all costs. That's all I want to say. Please
Mm,
understand this, like really understand it. The depth and breadth in that one sentence is massive. And actually, it's a never ending journey. You know, when you really truly understand that, it's a never ending journey. And I hope that people, take the initiative to really start to think about that.
I appreciate that, and I love that, and it's really important. Life is not a rehearsal. We have
No?
just one chance to live this life. So our mind, our soul, it's so important, and it's important to protect it. Mary, thank you so much
Thank
on
you, Annie.
actually doing something with your wisdom and sharing your wisdom and using your power and your voice to empower people and to share. Because as I think Seth Godin talks about the importance of shipping your work, it's important no matter how good or bad it is. When you create something, ship it, like share it with the people, and
Yes,
eventually you will get better at it. And I love how you chose to share your wisdom, because we couldn't have gained anything if you have not been sharing those wisdom. You would have had an amazing life, but it's so much more fulfilling when you can also inspire other people by your wisdom and your life. So thank you so much for your
thank
wisdom,
you,
time,
Annie.
and energy.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. Have a phenomenal rest of the day or night wherever you are, and until next time.